Welcome to Straight to the Point. I'm your host, Representative Joe Diorsi. In a world of long-windedness, I'm here to deliver you the Capitol News in 10 minutes or less. So, let's get straight to the point. So this is the Straight to the Point podcast. I'm Representative Joe Diorsi, and I have a very special guest phoning in today from Tennessee. He's the Senate leader in the Tennessee Senate, representing the 27th Senatorial District, Jack Johnson. Thanks for joining us today, Jack.
Well, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
So one of the things, aside from school choice, that I like to focus on here in the Pennsylvania legislature is our lack of competitiveness. And Tennessee kind of comes into focus because you guys are extremely competitive. I think our top business export is North Carolina, but second is probably Tennessee, and we're losing a lot of people to Tennessee. So thank you for being competitive, but not so much for harboring former Pennsylvanians.
Well, we welcome them from coming, but look, we're all part of this amazing country, the United States of America, and I wish success for all my friends in Pennsylvania. But we have worked hard in Tennessee, and the fruits of our labor are paying off. We are the least indebted state in America. Depending on how you rank it, we're probably the second or third lowest tax state, and I think we have one of the best business climates. But I always love meeting and talking to legislators from other states so we can share best practices and learn from each other on how to make our states the best they can be.
Yeah, excellent. And those are some characteristics we aspire to, at least in the Republican Party in Pennsylvania. So, Senator, let's talk school choice because there's good data that kind of explains that a state with robust school choice not only enhances the educational experience for students, but it can make a state more competitive. One example that comes to mind is Florida, where they were just ranked #1 in education in the United States, and as their school choice program has matured, their public school outcomes have gotten better. And Tennessee has been in the news, as well as Utah, as two of the states that are the most recent in getting universal school choice done, or ESAs. Tell me about the journey with Tennessee. You were certainly instrumental in finally getting it passed in Tennessee. What was the journey like?
Well, it's been a great journey. It's certainly had some bumps along the way. We'd have to go back to 2019, which was the first year of the administration of our Governor Bill Lee. He was elected in 2018. I became majority leader of the Senate, the Republican leader, the same time he became governor. So, and one of my responsibilities as the majority leader is to help facilitate the governor's legislative package. One of the things Governor Lee wanted to do in his very first year in office was to get a school choice plan implemented for our two largest counties. That would be the Nashville area, Davidson County, and then Memphis, Shelby County, where we have the highest concentration of underperforming schools. We were able to get that done. We passed an ESA program. It's been very successful and really helping some families get their kids into better educational alternatives. So that's kind of the beginning of the journey. Since that time, we have aspired to and worked towards trying to get a universal program in place that would be statewide, that would be available to any family in Tennessee who feels like the educational system being provided to them by the government is not meeting the educational needs of their child. And so we introduced that legislation last year and had a great conversation, did not get it across the finish line, but the governor called us into special session at the beginning of our regular session this year, and we were able to get it passed. And I'm so excited. 20,000 scholarships available to families all across the state of Tennessee. So very proud to be on that list of states now that have passed universal school choice.
Yeah, definitely. And what has been the early, it may be too early to talk about tangible results, but what's the early reception from Tennesseans from this universal program?
So it's already been, it will go into full effect. It'll go into full implementation this fall. But it's one of the reasons our governor wanted to go ahead and get it passed in a special session early before we got started in our regular session so that our Department of Education could start getting all the pieces in place to make these scholarships available to families this fall. That is underway now. And in fact, the department reported that just last week that over half of our private schools in Tennessee that are eligible to receive these scholarships have indicated that they will gladly accept them. So we're already seeing a great response from our private schools. And obviously, families out there who are interested in using these scholarships are very excited as well. Lots of calls about when can they apply, and get the ball rolling on making these scholarships available for their children. One thing I'll add is that ESA program we passed in 2019. One of the metrics that we found from that is that literally 99% of parents polled who have utilized that ESA program in those two largest metro areas in Tennessee are reporting satisfied or very satisfied. So we know that families that utilize school choice are very happy with it. And so I'm very excited to see full utilization of the plan statewide this fall.
Yeah, so in my young legislative career, and just for context, I've introduced a full universal in my state, the Student Freedom Account Act, and we're working toward that. But one of the things that really does tend to be important is what I would call political timing. And I couldn't describe, Senator, a better time, a better moment for school choice. Can you talk about just all of the factors that have come into play? I mentioned that 15 states in the last 4 years have adopted universal programs. There's a lot of momentum. There's states like Texas that are seriously flirting with an ESA. Was it a matter of striking when the iron was hot in Tennessee?
I think that it was. We were certainly helped by a conversation about school choice and the importance of education during the presidential election this past summer, this past fall, and obviously President Trump's overwhelming support of school choice was helpful for us as well. Again, the conversation began for us for a universal program over a year ago, but having a conversation about that at the national level, at the federal level, I think was helpful. And obviously seeing some of our friends in other states, you mentioned some that are having this conversation. We've monitored and seen what Florida has done with great success. And so I do think that the timing was really good. Something I will add, and I'm sure we'll get into this more later. In Tennessee, we have made a tremendous commitment to public education in our state. In fact, since Republicans have controlled Tennessee, which is just about 13 years now, going on 14, we have invested billions of additional money. I like to tell my friends that Republicans have done more for public education in the last decade than Democrats did in Tennessee for the 30 years prior combined. We are fully committed to having the best, strongest public education system we can in Tennessee, and we're seeing results from that. But as I said on the Senate floor when I was presenting the Universal School Choice Bill, we are committed to public education. We're going to continue to make our public education system the best it can be. While we're doing that, however, we must acknowledge that no matter how hard we try, the public education system that we run in partnership with our folks at the local level is not going to meet the needs of every child in Tennessee. So we've done great work in terms of public education, and I think that put us in a really credible position with the voters of Tennessee to say we are not abandoning public education. We're going to continue to focus on great public education. We have about 1 million kids in Tennessee that attend our public schools, and even with a universal school choice program, still the vast majority of our kids are going to attend a public school. So we're committed to public education, but let's recognize that parents need that choice when their public option down the street is not meeting the needs of their child.
Yeah, and that's a good segue to my next question, Mr. Leader. There's myths abound in the debate on school choice. And at least in Pennsylvania, the most powerful lobby in Harrisburg is the State Teachers Union. Can you list some of the myths that were hard to die as you pledged your support and you continued in this several-year battle to get school choice?
Yeah, probably the biggest myth that we had to refute is that this was somehow going to take money away from public education. And again, I go back and would just point out the history in Tennessee over the last decade or so. The additional money that we have appropriated, excuse me, towards our public education system, we're fully committed to funding that. And the way we structured our universal choice program we did something that I'm not sure if any other state has done. Tennessee is a growing state. 90 of our 95 counties are growing. Our school systems are growing. So even if you have full utilization of the scholarship program we implemented, you're still going to probably have net growth in our public schools. And so we're going to continue to fund those kids. But we even put a floor in terms of the public funding that we provide to our local education authorities to say we're not going to back up, even if you have a net student loss. And again, we don't think that's going to happen much, if at all. But if you had a net loss in student population, we'll establish a funding floor and to assure our local districts that you're not going to lose money. You're not going to have a mass exodus of kids. That's just simply not going to happen. But that was probably the biggest argument that we heard from opponents, is that somehow this was going to result in a massive loss of funding for public education. Just simply not the case. And then obviously the argument, and I'm sure you're hearing some of the same from opponents of parental choice in education, is that this creates some type of disparity or there's some type of discrimination going on. Nothing could be farther from the truth. These scholarships are going to be utilized by people of all races, all backgrounds, all income levels, and that's how it should be. And if at the end of the day, you recognize that the most important authority in determining a child's future is the parent, then it's hard to argue against a parental choice bill. And that's how I came to phrase it. I really tried to focus on this is empowering parents to make decisions that they think are best for their children.
Yeah. So lightning round question for you here, Mr. Leader. Put yourself in my shoes as a leader in the school choice debate here in Pennsylvania. Big state, purple state, Democrat-led House, Republican-led Senate, Democrat governor. What's your advice to me and my compatriots on the educational choice front to get something across the finish line?
Well, as I just said, if you make it about parental choice and empowering parents, making it so that parents can pick what's best for their child. I think trying to get away from this notion that the government should dictate where a child goes to school. I think a parent should make that decision. And I'm sure, like us, your legislature and your governor are fully committed to the highest quality public education system that you can have. And to talk, when you talk about school choice, talk about your commitment to public education, because they are going to coexist, just as they do in Florida. As you mentioned, since the passage of universal school choice and expanded charter schools in Florida, all systems have improved. All outcomes have improved. And I'm sure the same thing's going to happen in Tennessee, and I'm sure it would in Pennsylvania as well.
Yeah, so he is the Senate Majority Leader in the great state of Tennessee, representing the 27th Senatorial District, Jack Johnson. Thanks so much for joining my podcast, Jack.
Thanks, Representative. I look forward to meeting you in person at some point, and good luck with your efforts. Anything we can do in Tennessee to help, we'll be glad to.
Thanks so much.
This has been Straight to the Point. Visit repjod.com/mypodcasts.